Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Medicine Man as he travels the Vortex and arrive at episode number 298. Breathtaking's not my favorite word when there's only a force field between us and deep space. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
I'm tired.
Me too.
Me three.
Did you guys have a good week?
I had an excellent week because I was off.
What'd you do with your time off?
Most of the week. I worked Monday, but... Oh, gosh.
You had a staycation.
Yeah, I did. I had a bunch of stuff around the house. Caught up on some films and some... did I catch up on my films? Well, yeah, I guess I watched one film. I watched Snoopy, the Peanuts movie.
So did we.
Did you really?
Yeah.
On HBO?
Today.
We watched it last night.
So. What'd you think?
It was cute. It was good. I really liked the fact that they adhered to a lot of the old Peanuts tropes. You know, it was just they kind of hit on all the right jokes.
They didn't try to change anything too drastically.
No, and they made it feel like a Peanuts film.
All the Snoopy stuff was really great. Peanuts has always been one of those that I never thought adapted great onto screen. I preferred them on prints more than on screen, but I thought this one did a good job. It's as good as, I think, most of the classic cartoons anyways.
Speaking of Stranger Things, I finished that series.
Oh, yay. What'd you think?
That was good. It was really good. It's one of those ones that I really, really enjoyed it, but knowing that there's a second sequel or a second series coming... I think could
at the same. While I'm excited for the second season, I kind of wish it would have just been a one and done.
Yeah, I think it might kind of dilute the whole mythos a bit if they go on.
It depends on what they do,
unless they really drastically change it. But I finished Supergirl.
Oh wow!
So now I got to move on to finish Flash, and then the Arrow, and then Legends of Tomorrow.
Before they all start up in the next 2 weeks.
Next month.
I love Snoopy. I'm still so happy that you guys watched it.
How far into Stranger Things are you now?
We are at episode 4 because Lucifer started back up and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started back up. And we wanted to, at the very least, watch the pilot. Which, I don't want to be spoiled on stuff. So Patrick was really adamant, I got to watch the pilot of these two shows. We were like, okay, so we watched those two. And then didn't get to Stranger Things that night. We finished off Archer season 7, which was kind of nice, but that was like, all right, let's Stranger Things. Patrick was like, no, I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed. And we were like, dude, uncool. And did you guys do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes. Yeah, I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So what do we think?
It was good.
That was good. Yeah.
I liked it.
I like where they're going with Ghost Rider. I think the special effects look incredible.
Yeah. Oh, they looked really
for
good.
Television. It's wonderful.
Episode 1 looked really good. We'll see.
That's pretty much it. I'm sure I did other things. I read some books and caught up on some other things that I was trying to get caught up on. So, started Vampire Science, the second 8th Doctor book. So, since we got a little nod that there's a tie-in to a particular Lethbridge Stewart story coming up. So,
and you read the first 8th Doctor book?
I read the 8 Doctors a couple years
one.
ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the first one in the line. Technically, the novelization of the movie is the... Wow. Although I notice on lists, when they list the 8th Doctor Adventures, they always list the movie novelization as 0.
It's kind of like
8 Doctors is 1. And Vampire Science is 2.
It's like the Man Trap in Star Trek. It's listed as 0.
There you go.
Anybody who lists Man Trap as episode 0 or 1 is wrong. There's no other way around it. Just because NBC said, you know what, we'd kind of like to have a monster in the first episode of Star Trek. It wasn't the first one filmed. It wasn't meant to be the pilot. It wasn't meant to be the first episode of anything. It just happened to air out of order, same as Firefly. That's like saying The Train Job is episode 1. It isn't. It's wrong. End of spiel. I'm off my soapbox. We watched...
we watched that first actual episode today.
Oh, Where No Man's Gone Before? Yeah. And?
Oh, it was pretty good.
It's a solid episode.
Yeah. All the ones I've watched so far have been very solid. What'd you watch?
We watched, we're almost done, actually, with Next Gen Season 2. We've really been blowing through this. Like, Mel's like, just devouring it, which is kind of awesome, because that means we're getting to the point where it gets really good. We watched April in the Extraordinary World. It was quite enjoyable. It was a lot of fun.
I took Sarah to see Bridget Jones's Baby.
How was that?
It was surprisingly entertaining. I'd never seen any of the movies before this one, and you don't really have to because it's set so much later. And some of the emotion might not have been there for me since I'm not invested in these characters at all. But it was pretty funny. It had some really good moments. Should we move on to news? BBC Three has announced the first 2 episodes of Class will air on October 22nd. Not only that, they have announced that the first episode will feature Peter Capaldi as the Doctor.
Yay! So how do you get through a year without Doctor Who? You put him on another show.
So,
that'll drive the ratings.
I'm not sure if they chose the 22nd of October on purpose, but that is the 10th anniversary of Torchwood, the first episode.
Oh, I did not know that.
I didn't know
So
that.
the new spin-off starts the same time as the first spin-off.
On the same network. It's on BBC Three, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nice little tidbit there for you. So that's exciting.
And we are still finalizing our plans for how we're going to be handling Class, but we'll let you know.
Did BBC America announce a date yet, too?
I don't think
didn't
they've
see
announced
it.
a date. They're going to run it in conjunction with Doctor Who, so whenever.
So whenever it comes back.
Yeah.
So probably a night full of Who-related material.
I imagine they'll probably do one at 7 and one at 8, something like that.
Probably Who first and then Class, because Class is going to be more adult.
Probably, yeah. It'll be Watershed.
From their
From the description.
their warning labels. You see all those that they came out with this week. Mm-hmm. It's young adult, so don't let the kids watch it. And then the showrunner was like, well, okay, so yeah, it's a young adult, which means we're going to deal with young adult themes. So I guess
Don't let the kid watch it.
he says, I guess, well, he was kind of almost backpedaling from the BBC, because the BBC was like, don't let the kids watch it, it's not Doctor Who. And he was kind of like, well, maybe, depends on the child.
Let the teens watch it, not the kids.
What are you doing? Don't tell people not to watch my show. So, but I suppose for everybody that's out there that's just salivating over this, yes, it has been rated officially young adult, or whatever the young adult rating is in England. So,
what would be PG-13?
What would be, I assume, PG-13 on television in England could be a little bit stronger. You might not want to let the kiddies watch it. So there's that. I thought that was just a funny. What are you doing?
Oh, you've also, speaking of Torchwood, you might have seen John Barrowman has been talking about the obstacles of Torchwood returning, one of which being Stephen Moffat.
What obstacles?
One of which being Stephen Moffat.
What obstacles?
Of the show returning.
Did he actually come out and name Moffat, or was it just hinted at that it was Moffat? Because I never actually heard Barrowman point a finger and say, Stephen Moffat won't let the show come back. But that's kind of how all the reactionary media
The quote here
related it.
says, Stephen Moffat won't let this show come back.
Is that his quote or ours?
That's his quote.
Really?
No.
That's why I asked, Glenn. I hadn't seen an actual quote. I just heard him talking about wanting to bring it back, and then heard him talking about being unable to bring it back.
He's been wanting to and being unable to for quite a while. And so Moffat said, you may be aware that Barrowman has been saying publicly that I've been blocking the new series of Torchwood. To be very clear, I haven't blocked it. I wouldn't block it. I wouldn't even be able to block it. I didn't even know a revival had been mooted until I read about it on the internet. As John perfectly well knows, it's not my show, and I could no more prevent it from happening than he could cancel Sherlock. So he continues to say that he doesn't understand why that came up. And for the record, he really liked the show, especially the third series. And we're very happy to see more. But it's nothing to do with me. Don't send me anxious, angry,
That's where it
hate
comes
mail. That's bottom line.
That's probably exactly what happened. Barrowman never said it when Moffat was just getting blamed for it. So he was like, I didn't do it. Why am I not surprised that he likes season 3?
Well, yeah.
That was probably the other part of the interview. What's the one where they killed everybody? Season 3. Yeah, I liked that one.
So the direct quote from Barrowman, he claimed that certain egos were in the way of their show's return. I'm being told that it can't come back until it's got approval from certain people involved with Doctor Who. That might change when somebody leaves and when somebody new and wonderful comes in.
Oh, wow, that's pretty...
He's pretty much saying
That's
Moffat
all I'm
well.
saying.
Yeah,
Stephen Moffat's name.
That's kind of standing there pointing a finger and saying, that man. Why would you do that, John?
John also later said at Wizard World Chicago, as long as Stephen Moffat is involved, Jack will not be back. He directly says it.
In who?
It doesn't say. I'd have to watch the video.
In general.
I think just in general. Torchwood.
Who,
or
Torchwood, Glass.
I wonder if they've had a falling out. That's kind of what I would read into that.
Well, clearly they've had a falling out now. John Barrowman accused Moffat of
now Moffat's mad at him because he's going to get hate mail because of
How's that not a falling out, John?
Is John still pissy about not being involved in the 50th? I don't know. I'm just... does he keep bringing him up at home going, dude, when you bringing me back to the show? And Moffat's like, I don't know. I haven't got around to it yet. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning...
Your contract with CW up.
The phone rings at 3 in the morning. Am I in this season? Dude, I haven't written it. I don't know. It seems weird to me. But
I don't know. I guess we'll just wait and see.
that's rather unfortunate. I feel sad now.
Well, here's something exciting.
Give me something exciting.
Back by popular demand is the second volume of Big Finish's Classic Doctor's New Monsters series. The first one is the Fifth Doctor facing off against Rachnos.
The spider?
The spider.
Big giant spider woman.
Well, maybe not the queen. It could be a whole army of Rachnos.
The ones that didn't get drowned in the Earth's core.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the word you used? Excited? I don't know. I don't know if I'm excited. But
They have not.
I would allow
announced.
mildly intrigued. I don't know if I could go any further than that.
I think the Rachnos was an interesting concept.
They were okay.
I think it's ripe for revisitation with Big Finish.
I will
might
give
be able
you
to do it
that.
a little bit better.
I will give you that. And spiders are scary inherently, so maybe I will enjoy it better if I don't have to look at one.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
See? No word on what the 6th or 7th Doctor will come across in this box set yet.
Probably still working to clear the rights.
Probably.
it's
Be available in 2017.
Well, there's some truth in that because each of the writers still have creative license over their characters, even in the BBC nowadays, and so I'm assuming they have to get those signed off. So,
does it speak? I don't know, maybe volumes that. Okay, so box set 1, we've got the Weeping Angels, and we've got who else was
the Jadoon?
The Jadoon, and we've got
the Sycorax.
The Sycorax, and
which is kind of
yeah. So now for season 2, we're going that spider chick.
And next will be the Wire.
Big Finish could probably make that interesting.
And the Absorbaloff.
Oh God!
And that squiggly monster from
the Squiggle monster. Oh, Big Finish.
Fifth Doctor faces off against the Squiggle monster.
Okay. Now wait a minute. In fairness, we're having a laugh over this, but in fairness, we all love the Merca. And fandom hates the Merca. But when Big Finish did the Merca, that was pretty cool.
Cooler.
So maybe there's something there.
Well, it all goes back to if you don't have to see it, you can make it work.
Doctor, what is that on the wall? It looks like a giant squiggle monster. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it before.
There wasn't anything giant about it.
It was a small squiggle monster.
Well, maybe it becomes a small squiggle monster later.
It has grown in squiggle size.
Well, no, it'd be earlier.
Oh, I guess that's true. Well, not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily.
Wiggly wobbly, timey-wimey.
The Rachnos is definitely earlier.
Because they're all dead now.
Yeah, because they all did drown.
They are all dead.
No. There was an air pocket.
There was another faction of Rachnos somewhere else.
The one Rachnos got it bad. Okay.
Be excited, Sean.
That's the tagline.
Be excited.
Be
Sean.
excited.
Sean.
Just specifically for anyone named Sean.
Be excited, Sean.
I'm going to flip open my new Titan.
No.
Comic.
Be excited, Sean Collins.
I'm going to flip
What's
open
your middle
my new
name?
Titan comic.
Robert?
Robert.
Sean
Robert
Collins, just to make sure
on the
it's
back side of
specifically
the comic issue, there'll be a Big Finish ad. Big Finish, classic monster, classic Doctors, new monsters. Be excited, Sean.
Robert Collins.
Robert Collins.
That's it for news.
I've got my middle name now.
Is
Do you
it?
want to hand
I
out
thought
my
we had
serial
another one.
number or something?
You have a
I
serial
have a serial number.
Yes. Whoa.
I have a manufacture date, too. I'm not sure I want to give that out.
His social security number is 513.
That's the one I was talking about. X point
X.
5.
I think you went to the wrong social security office.
What's that from?
I don't know. What is it from?
Coneheads.
Coneheads.
Bell
You know, I have
Diaries.
no retention for films I've only seen once or twice.
All night long, baby. That's what you're getting all night long. All right, no more news.
Let's move on to feedback.
Hooray! Feedback.
Eric writes, "Hello, Vortex gang.
Hello, Eric.
I've been meaning to write again for a while now, but life has been crazy recently. We have recently learned, after years of trying, my wife is pregnant, and with twins, no less.
Hey, congratulations.
Congratulations, Eric.
You'll have your hands full.
Yeah. So needless to say, we've got a lot going on right now, and it's only going to get crazier. We are super excited and terrified at the same time. Anyway, I would love to write individual reviews to share with you guys about some of the Doctor Who related media you guys have covered on the show recently, but I have just not had the time this month. I did want to again thank you for an excellent program every week and for the truly excellent recommendations lately. I thoroughly enjoyed the Showstoppers, and I'm currently working my way through the Grandfather Infestation. I'm liking that one quite a bit as well. I'm about halfway through that one as we speak, and have not heard the show where you are going to discuss it, or have already discussed
We
it.
should wait until you're done.
Or whatever, timey-wimey, etc. Both those books have been refreshing as the first of the Candy Jar books I read. Moonblink I didn't quite like as much. I heard you all rave about Lethbridge Stewart line and had high hopes. Showstoppers hit and exceeded that mark.
Glad you're enjoying them.
Also, I just finished The Kingmaker from Big Finish, and I loved it. It's easily one of my favorite Big Finish stories I've heard, and may even earn a place among my favorite Doctor Who stories, period. It's clever, funny, and very well acted by all of its cast members. I also loved the red herring pulled with Satan character, as many of us listening probably thought, just like Perry, that we were dealing with the Master. In a universe as densely populated with stories as Doctor Who, I like it when my expectations are toyed with. It demonstrates an understanding of Doctor Who and its fandom to write a plot device like that. So my hat is off to Nev Fountain for this story. I also now have a voice in my head for Aramim, which was played quite differently than the way I had imagined while reading Aramim the Last Pharaoh with the book club a few months ago. I read her character to be much like the Fourth Doctor's companion, Leela, in a lot of ways, and that was not the way Caroline Morris played her. It's a much more well-rounded character than in the novel. So for me, the novel loses a few points for not really getting that across. I've been trying to follow you guys in your Friday Night Who selections, even though I have yet to actually stay awake to join on the fun on Twitter. Last one I watched was The Silurians, or Doctor Who and the Silurians, if you must. I enjoyed revisiting this one. It was one of my favorites of the Pertwee area on my initial watch through of the classic series, and I liked even more this time around. I think I was still getting used to the unit era of the show the first time I saw it. Now I understand the Pertwee era and all of its joys. I was able to appreciate that it truly is among the top stories of all time. One last thing. Are any of you planning on going to Chicago TARDIS this November? My wife and I will be there all weekend and it'd be great to say hello. If not, I will be sure to write some feedback and let you know about our convention experience. I know you have your local convention coming up, and I'm sure that's a busy time for you guys. I'd love to make it to Time Eddie someday as well. The Chicago TARDIS schedule of events has not been released yet, but when it is, if you see anything you'd like me to check out and then write a bit about, I'd be happy to help. Just let me know. I'll catch up with my watching and listening to the podcast someday. Hope all of you are well, and I will be in touch again in the near future. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
And unfortunately, I don't think any of us have plans at this time to be going to Chicago TARDIS this year.
Oh, I have plans.
You always have plans.
Always
It
have.
may not come to fruition.
It may not come to fruition. However, we all want to get there eventually. One thing I might suggest is absolutely we'd love to have feedback from you if you want to write something up on the convention. That'd be wonderful. Another option might be if you are able to record some audio for us and just tell us. We can play that in the show as well. So.
Yeah.
And
Either
nothing
way.
specific. We'll take anything. We love it when listeners decide to be roving reporters and frogs on the street. So
We call you Traveling the Vortex Correspondents when you do that for us.
I should make up a badge or something.
This is press on it.
Traveling the Vortex Correspondent. But
I'm
yeah,
glad you're enjoying the show, too.
And
Yeah,
congratulations on the babies.
Yeah. I hope you write back in and let us know
When those babies-
when they're born and what the names are going to be.
When those babies come, you will definitely not be joining us for Friday Night Who. Although maybe you will
You
because
might
you'll
be
be
because
up
you'll
with
be
the
up.
babies. So you might as well.
Might not be
We
able to tweet very
we
easily.
got two
but
feedings. I remember having to get up with one kid apiece each time that they were babies. I can't imagine getting up with two.
maybe if you can get them on the same schedule.
Now, hopefully they'll sync, but I don't
You
think...
still can't feed them at the same time. Well, I guess you could. I guess Mom could. I guess that's why they were equipped with two.
You got two hands, too.
I have your bottle feeding,
Yeah. If you don't hold and feed, you could do two at
Yeah.
once.
You're kind of supposed to hold and feed when they're newborns. Anyway.
Yeah. Once they get a little older,
Yeah,
you could
right.
get away with.
I could do it.
I believe that. That's it for
Of course, I
feedback.
could cheat and use my toes.
I've seen your toes. You've got these really super
I'm
long
super long.
8 feet.
Almost finger
So,
toes.
yeah.
And I can pick things up with them. So
Yes.
I could
So you probably could feed a baby with your toes.
I could probably get away with that.
Wrap your toes around a bottle.
Mel wouldn't be happy with it, but I could probably do it.
What does the baby smell like feet again?
It's got to be better than baby smell.
What?
Baby smell is weird.
Oh, baby smells good.
No. Cheyenne smells like baby. And
Yeah.
there's just
that's-
nothing...
Baby smells wonderful.
No.
Yes.
That's a fallacy.
No. That's baby smell.
And
is
I'm not talking about the milk smell or
You
the,
know, baby
the
smell
poo
is
smell
wonderful.
or I'm just talking about the generic here I am, I'm a baby smell. Baby
Yep.
smell is not a
That's
good smell.
one of the most pleasant smells in the world.
Disagree.
You'll find I'm on the side of more people who think baby smell.
I also
Yeah,
find
I think you're in the minority.
I also think that having not gone through the joys of childbirth myself, I think I haven't been flashy thinged yet. I think all you parents who went through that and then got flashy thinged at the hospital into thinking this is a good thing are all about it. You think baby smell is wonderful, and I have retained my
I think the
olfactory case.
I think the Men in Black flashy thing is for the women, so they don't remember the pain they go
Yeah,
Oh, they
more
get-
than anything else.
through. I remember every bit of it, but I wasn't in as much pain as Holly was. So.
I think that's why it doesn't hit you as hard. I think it's aimed at the women, but it's peripherally bleed over onto the fathers, which is why you think baby smell is wonderful.
Yeah, but then I'd have to been flashy thingy long after the kids had grown out of the baby smell, because I still remember the baby smell. So the
Doctor's
flashy thing
appointment.
wouldn't do anything. There was one doctor's appointment.
See,
Here,
that's where they got you.
nope, no, baby smells good.
It's in those overhead lights on the when you're lying in the stirrups when they have their feet up. That's when they get them right there.
Should we move on to our reviews?
Sure.
Do we have to?
Should we start with Dreamtime?
Yeah, let's get that one out of the way.
The
Oh,
TARDIS brings the Seventh Doctor, Ace, and new companion Hex to a seemingly dead city floating among the stars, populated by statues that may have once been people. Most startling of all on the planetoid is the familiar sight of Uluru, Ayers Rock, the heart of the Dreamtime. Do you guys know what Uluru was when they were talking about it? Because I had to go look it up.
I did not.
I thought that was in an ABBA song.
They're Swedish, not Australian.
Wasn't that?
No, that was voulez-vous,
Oh, voulez-vous. Oh, well, then I don't know.
which is French. I don't know why the Swedish
Well,
are
that
thinking
just
about
ruined
that.
my whole review. I had this whole ABBA-esque theme going with
Let's
this.
do it. It's got to be more entertaining than what you. It was more entertaining than what we listened to.
Voo-la-voo, huh.
I can't give it the horn.
I can't. No, I agree. I can't give it the horn either.
No.
I don't. Here's
It
why.
had a lot of promise to it.
Here's why I can't give it the horn. Because in order to give it the horn, I would have had to have understood it. But I didn't understand it, so I don't think it'd be fair to say this was a stinker. Because I don't think I followed the story.
I'll leave it to you to delve into it, to try to figure out the mysteries of it, because I tackled Ghostlight.
This is how badly...
Oh, okay.
Challenge,
Glenn.
This is how badly I was confused in the story. I went back and listened to parts again. Because I felt like...
I thought about doing that.
I felt like I missed something. No, I didn't. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't listen to the whole thing and then go back and listen to parts. I would listen to a part and be so confused that I would go back about 10 or even 20 minutes and listen to that part again just to see if I understood what the heck was going on. This is one of those films. This is one of those audio plays that suffers from being an audio play.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
it's doing things that it wants you to visualize without giving you enough to visualize in your head. And so it tends to jump around, especially when we're going through whatever the Dreamtime is, because I'm never sure when anybody's in the Dreamtime or not in the Dreamtime. Which I got the impression that
once the Doctor gets back in time.
Well, once you become then we throw the time travel element into it, which confused me even more.
When the Doctor goes into the Dreamtime, there is a nice audio effect to help you differentiate between Dreamtime and non-Dreamtime.
You mean the echo?
Yeah. Hey, it's an audio effect. But then once he's in Dreamtime in the past, then it just loses it, and you gotta, That's. I got lost in those words.
Did it feel rushed to you too? Did it feel rushed? Like they had this grand idea for a story, but they only had 2 hours to do it in, and so they were like, "Okay, how do we just clip it along faster?" Well, we'll skip some parts. That's what it felt like.
Maybe I don't know.
But part of my problem of it is also the characters. None of the characters in it are consistent.
The big at first they described them as slugs, and then they were describing them as reptiles. What were the two?
Gaiari?
Yeah, the Gaiari.
We met them before. You remember them?
I don't remember them.
They were in the clutch with Sandman with Six
They were
Doctor.
the ones that were terrified of the Sandman.
In fact, there's Sandman references
I do remember that. Yes. And I did pick up on the
They're not even consistent because they're all about let's go down in the mine and try to steal and smuggle, and then they get down there and then they don't care about any of that anymore.
Well,
they forget why they got down there.
They go to the planet to negotiate trades. What they first go there. Then when they get there, when they get there, they realize that they think that there's nobody there. So it's at that point where they say, "Okay, we'll salvage." Yeah. And I was okay with that. I was fine with that. I mean, that made sense. If nobody's left, then you just take what you want. But then when they come across people again, they still are on this mission to trade. I mean, they make that clear. So that at least that much is consistent.
Yes.
Okay.
It's when they get down in the mine, they get this great idea of, there might be stuff in the mine that we could salvage. And we're going to tell this lie to these people that there could be survivors down in the mine so we can go down there. And then they go down to the mine, and they forget about trying to salvage anything. They lose all interest in that motivation for going down into the mine.
There's something I missed. Apparently, I didn't go back and listen to that part again.
Did I read that wrong?
No, the premise for going down in the mine is as weak as maybe there's some stuff down there for us. Maybe there's some rich stuff, and we can go get it. Okay, and then it's dropped because then it becomes let's go kill somebody, and it's like. What?
Well, but then they were being chased by the Fratellis, so they had to stop thinking about getting the rich stuff.
But that's as weak as that plot device is. And I love Goonies.
See, I can do a movie reference when I've seen it a dozen times.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But so here's what I got out of this, and I love Australia. I love everything that what little I know to preface that. About the culture and the history and cool, Australia. And when I got very excited when they finally said Ayers Rock is this thing, and I went, oh, okay, now I'm with you. I know what that looks like. Uluru. And
I never heard Ayers Rock.
Well, they said Ayers Rock.
I had to go look it up.
Relatively early.
Even hearing Ayers Rock, it's a rock. Okay,
I
hadn't seen a picture of it. I know what it is.
It's that rock.
That rock.
So then, okay, so we're there at that rock. Great, fantastic. And then there's stones, which apparently are people who got sucked into the dream world. Okay, but there's stone cars. So why would that
buildings.
be? And stone buildings. Why would that be? And then the doctor gets turned to stone. And then Ace winds up spending the next...
Oh, it's not ABBA, it's ELO.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That makes
All
way
right.
more sense now. I was really confused.
I knew it had to
ABBA.
be a 70s rock band
Okay.
somewhere.
Well, it all comes back to yellow, doesn't it? But so then Ace spends pretty much the next 3 episodes debating whether or not she's going to be called McShane or not. Still, people are still dealing with that, and it's
But still, at least still, because we have that's been set forth in previous episodes. So it's... I thought that device worked really well this time.
Well,
because she's still going by McShane. She's resolved that that's what she wants people to call her. The doctor still calls her Ace, which I think is great. So that was one of the reasons why they identified the rainbow serpent, wherever the heck that came from, when it was disguised as the doctor.
Yeah.
So that was actually
nice
a cool
touch.
device.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
right. But I
agree
mean,
there.
it still felt like that was all that was going on in the tunnels. Was they were still having this debate, not just during the doctor confrontation, the fake doctor confrontation, but during the whole. It's like, okay,
I must have missed the debate too, because I don't remember
It just
at
felt
all.
like that was the thing. We
didn't feel like they were doing anything down
Yeah,
in the tunnel.
that was the problem.
That I would agree with.
We get the rich stuff argument, and then let's go down here. We get the security guy on the doctor's team, and then the spiritual guru shows up, who I'm all prepared to be the bad guy, who isn't. In fact, he's probably the good guy.
Wait, he wasn't?
No,
Oh.
he was the one that was keeping the force field in place, and the
Right.
doctor was trying to
Sent it
save
off into space.
and saved the security guards, and he was the good guy. And none of this was explained, and none of this was properly laid out,
or even how they were able to propel Uluru into space.
Yeah, we didn't
and
cover
keep
any
it
of that.
there. Other than the Dreamtime can do it, and the Dreamtime will terraform whatever planet they get to when they get there.
Yeah.
Because the Earth exploded.
because
That's
science.
all there was. No, it wasn't even science. It's magic.
Yeah.
It was magic.
Even
It
the
was
doctor
magic.
calls it magic and doesn't give us any sort of
we
scientific
get
explanation.
nothing on it, and the whole reason that it may have been perceived
It's Aussie
bad.
science. Or it's
Yeah,
Aussie magic.
Aussie
Yeah.
magic's even worse.
Spiritualities.
And the only reason that it was perceived that maybe this is a bad thing is because we corrupted the magic by allowing women to
Thank you.
do something.
I'm glad
Yeah.
somebody else is pointing
What?
that out. Yeah, the misogyny in this is what really bothered me. Now they didn't
dealing with
dwell
the
on that
cult-
statement
well-
very long, but
dealing with the cultural significance of if you're putting that out there and dealing with the cultural significance or the religious significance or the this is the way it used to be and the culture behind that, okay. But then to sit there and just say that that's what it was
Yeah.
that caused this, and the doctor's the one that says
that's the villain.
Yeah.
The villain is the fact that mankind changed.
That's what it came down to.
Yeah,
It really is.
It's like what?
That was the part I backed up and listened to again. It's like,
oh yeah,
what?
that was one of the parts I listened to. Because I couldn't believe that was coming out of the doctor's mouth. And it's not the doctor that was formulating that they shouldn't have changed, but he also wasn't railing against the fact that I kind of expected him to not pin it so much on that as though that was a fault. It was more of this is just the way things became and it's okay. But there was never any it's okay that this happened. It was more of you guys are to blame because you changed the old ways. And I was like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge problem with that being that. So then we get to the end, and it's kind of like, okay,
We fixed it. We don't know how, but we fixed it.
we're done. It's like, what?
okay. Then I was just a lot more confused than you guys, so I feel a lot better because I thought the same thing. I
No,
thought
they didn't explain a single
fixed
thing in
because
it.
they didn't really tell me what happened.
They didn't explain how these dogs were able to
I
show
thought
up
I
and start
mixed it.
attacking people
You know,
for no reason. It's the Dreamtime.
it was like some author just had all these ideas and just put them all into one stew and called it Dreamtime. It was weird. It was
Somebody saying, you know where the doctor's never been?
Australia.
And honestly, it did kind of feel like part of me took it as I didn't understand this part of Australian culture, that I didn't know the history of whatever the supposed magic was supposed to be. But if you guys didn't know what it was either, then I'm guessing it's not based on actual spirituality.
It
may
could,
be.
and we just are
And
enough removed from it. We don't know what it is.
I am firmly willing to say that maybe even my excitement over the idea of Australia, that I don't know enough about the spirituality and the culture of Australia to be able to say, oh, that's a thing. But if you're going to do a story that's this steeped in it, you got to explain it to people that don't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
if you're going to tell a story that has that as your background, then you've got to inform your listener a little better than they do.
Just all the way around. Now, Hex is the best thing in this. I really like Hex. I thought he was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, he really wasn't given anything to do.
Yeah, that's the
agreed.
problem.
And
with Hex.
having said that, Hex is the best thing in this. But he wasn't given anything to do. What does that tell you about the rest of them?
Well,
I mean,
as far as
his
Hex,
character was able to seep through that.
well, as far as Hex goes, though, my problem with this story was it seemed like Hex was kind of coming along as a character in the previous stories and kind of coming to.
Which is previous story? It's just the
Story.
one. isn't it?
Yeah, it is just a
This is-
story.
yeah, this is
You're
only the
right.
second
Because
one.
the
It
first
feels
one was
like
the Cyberman.
this story
You're right.
feels like he's been around for a long time before this.
So, but I didn't feel that there was any growth in the character in this one at all. It was very.
in fact, they backtrack him a little bit because he's
Yes,
able to
that's
take.
exactly what I was
we're
gonna
on an
say.
asteroid. There's
Yep,
this
that's
this
exactly
force
what I was
field.
gonna say.
There's this. There's aliens. Oh my God.
Yeah,
We're back to
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly where I was going with this. It felt like we backpedaled, and I
At least they
actually
had nice
I had
reference to it. I
misremembered.
used to
I
say,
thought
"Oh
we
my
had
God," all the time.
I thought we'd had 2 stories with him before this, but apparently
No, this is it.
It was the Cyberman one, right? It was the
Yep.
first one. He was okay.
Harvest.
So yeah, so I kind of felt like the character didn't grow any, and maybe with 2 stories I should be a little more forgiving of that. But you're right; it did feel like they kind of backslid a bit with him.
I feel like Ace wasn't giving anything to do.
She
Just-
wasn't,
We're
but
gonna
she
stick
was
her down in the
She was
catacombs with the
strong.
monsters.
She was a strong character in
She was
this.
strong,
so
but
I'll
Ace
give him
is
that.
always
I'll give him that.
strong.
Yeah, we
I mean,
didn't get anything new out of Ace.
Yeah, it's easy. I think it's easy to write Ace strong because
It's harder to write her vulnerable.
Yeah. And so this wasn't anything necessarily new for her.
No.
And we go 15, 20 minutes into it, and then we knock her out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
true.
and it's like, so there's
Yeah,
nothing to
it's-
do with her there.
yeah.
So till they revive her, and she did stand up as a good mediator between the one guy that was with them, the human, and the what was the name of the
Guy
guy?
I suppose
Warrior.
that okay, if you're gonna
I call him a warrior. They were like traders and scavengers.
scavenger guy. I mean, salvage. I'm using air quotes over here. You can't see it on the podcast, but I suppose if you really, really, really stretch, okay, the fact that Ace didn't go in all gung-ho, guns blazing at the end, that she kind of played against type for Ace and was like, well, now, wait a minute, maybe we don't need to blow this thing up. I mean, for her, that's kind of a big step, but
is that growth as a character, or is that someone not knowing the character and not writing the character?
or is it just the
not
fact that
staying true to the character?
or is it just the fact
point.
that the other guy is so obviously wrong that it becomes easier to not...
That's true also. There's a
But then
number
we
of factors
revert
in
to
that.
type at the end anyway, because she's allowed to blow something up finally. So
Yeah.
near the end.
But then it's also, by that point in the story, I didn't care. I kind of hoped they would blow up the spiritual guru just to see what happened.
Honestly, I did too, actually. I kind of hoped that the story would have ended with the Uluru and the asteroid kind of destroying, and the Doctor and his crew having to be on the spaceship kind of looking back going, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted that ending.
I did like Ace's mention that the Doctor tends to come in and fix the problem, but never sticks around to clean up. I did
Yeah,
like
that was nice too.
What happened? Well, then they all died. Aw.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And bringing back that alien species should have been great. Because I enjoyed
I
what
had
they did in the
completely
Sandman.
forgot about the
Yeah.
Sandman.
The sound of their voices sounded familiar, and then they made the Sandman reference, and I was like, oh yes, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
do
that's
remember
what these
the-
people
remember
are,
the
yeah.
Sandman reference, yeah.
But yeah, just...
And it's a shame because there's another one that's a Bernice Summerfield adventure, and that's it. That's all we get of. the Galliari.
For now.
Yeah, unless they revisit.
Who knows?
Considering.
Galliari could come back.
New Doctors, Big Finish Monsters.
There you go.
Sounds good to me.
I'd be more excited over that.
I could totally see the 10th Doctor going up against the Galliari.
I would. Yes. That to me is more exciting than spiders.
Anything else on this one?
I feel bad anytime I give something a bad review, but I can't say anything real positive about this one. It was a chore to listen to, and
the positives was
I'm
I'm still enjoying the 7th Doctor, and
oh yeah, Sylvester McCoy's great,
and Hex is a great addition to the trio.
Yeah.
They're still trying to find their feet a little bit as a threesome.
agreed.
I mean, it goes without saying, Sophie Aldred and Sylvester McCoy turn in great performances, but they're always great. I mean, you could give them the phone book to read, and it would be engaging at some level. But
I don't know about that, but
well, especially when you get to the R's. I mean, come on.
At least for Sylvester.
that should have been the device. It shouldn't have been McShane. It should have been the fact that the Doctor wasn't rolling his R's. He was, but that would have been a cool device for him to do dialogue without rolling the R's. And then Ace keying into the fact that you don't sound like the Doctor.
Can Sylvester not roll R's?
I don't.
Is
Not
that
sure he
physically
can
possible?
anymore. Not sure he can anymore.
No.
I don't. It'd be weird to hear it without it. You're right. That would have been better.
Yeah.
It would be rare.
Rare.
I can't do it.
I can't do it.
Rare.
There you go.
Let's move on to the comics.
Oh, good.
Well, I think we should tackle the first two because it was a 2-issue.
That was a two-parter.
arc. I don't have synopses for these.
That's
so.
fine.
What do you guys think of the first two?
That was the one with the things, the
music.
ethereal things that were musical, and the one gal had the one condition where she could actually see them, so she devised the dome to allow other people to be able to see them. And they had the air cows. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just had to recall because it's been a
time?
couple days since I read it.
This would have been a great Big Finish story.
well, clearly it would have been better than Dreamtime.
Switch these two. Do Dreamtime and comics and that.
Yeah, I
Which
don't
is
think
weird
I want to
considering
see
how
Dreamtime.
visual this
I know,
is.
it's very visual,
This
but
is a very visual comic.
I wanted to hear the music.
Yeah, I would
and
agree.
The sing-song voice of them. I just wanted to hear it all.
That's hard to
Shanti.
do. You put musical notes around the words in the text of the comic within the bubbles. It's to allude to the fact that it's sing-songy, dialogue. But you never can formulate that in your head what it would sound like. I would agree.
I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't hate this one. I thought this was good.
I didn't hate it.
No. I this wasn't the best of the 10th Doctor stories we've gotten.
No.
But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all.
I thought it was a fine kickoff to the next series. I liked the plot device where there's a virus
yeah.
of these things being infected, and then there's a stampede of air cows.
And it was original. It was something different. It was something that I don't think anybody had kind of tackled with the idea of a virus riding the waves of this music that had been remixed and recut and re-edited, and having to go back to the original source and feeding that through in order to eradicate the virus. I thought was a clever plot device.
A really clever way to make a statement on covers and remixes.
Yeah.
How much music today sucks.
And the fact that whatever the musical beings were,
The Shanti.
The one particular one was able to make a copy of itself.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't the same, but it was the same. It was like a clone, and sending that off with the Doctor was pretty cool.
I like that it was the Presley Foundation.
Yeah.
And I like the design that they chose to visualize the Shanti when it's such an ethereal being where you normally, just hear it all. They did a good job of making it look ethereal, too.
Yeah.
The infected versions are so kind of horrific that it's like, whoa.
Very good contrast.
Yeah.
It's a beautifully drawn comic. I really liked the
artwork was
cityscape.
incredible.
And this is one of the few times where, again, thank you to Titan for giving us digital copies to be able to review these, but this was one of those when you get that first, when they're on the cliff overlooking the city, and you don't necessarily get that splash page because it's...
Right.
I was I need to go buy this one so that I can see what that looks like. It opened up like that.
Yeah.
But I thoroughly, this was a fun, cool
Can't you dual page your viewer?
I don't know, maybe.
I said that was the first thing I did was dual page it, so I could.
If I can, I don't know
I don't know how to do that either.
But
I'm sure there's a way.
You know,
It's a PDF, so you should be able to look at it in dual view.
thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Until
it's not an overly complex story either. Which
no, and that was nice. It's 2 parts, and then it's done. Okay, cool. Until we got to the end. And
Wait, what was wrong at the end?
which end?
Anubis showing back up.
Oh, well,
Now, only from the
That
standpoint
was the reminder of
that's a reminder of what we got last season, and we were so excited over. Oh wow, Anubis! We're going to, and how cool that was, and then the fact that it was kind of left as a dangling threat, and I didn't want him to come back right away.
too soon. Yes, agreed. Yeah,
And so I
too
feel
soon.
like now all this is a reminder
Yeah.
that hey, that's still dangling. Okay,
And it's also a rather reminder for the Doctor of, hey, go do what you promised.
which from that respect, it actually, in a way, fixes things for me a little
Well.
bit. Like, hey, what happened to this little girl that was in this astronaut suit? I don't know. Let's go check out some pirates.
Yeah.
It kind of was like, yeah, all right, that's just the way he is. I can deal with that a little better now.
Part of me would have just rather not seen it. And just, when the Doctor comes across something of, oh, that's what it is, okay, I'll go tell Anubis, instead of Anubis hounding him about getting it done, and the Doctor slacking it off. You'd think he would just go do it just to get him off his tail.
Yeah.
That's what kind of...
I don't know. That's the Doctor almost being. I imagine the Time Lords were very henpecked, which is one of the reasons he left, because he doesn't like being told to do things.
Yeah.
Well, clearly they were, because they kept coming back to him to clean up stuff for him in the classics.
That's why he doesn't stick around and clean stuff up.
Yeah.
I had enough of this.
I've been forced to clean too much stuff.
But wasn't I kind of remembering the end wrong, where he was actually kind of interested to go try to resolve the issue for Anubis?
Yeah, I thought so.
That's that strike of character change.
Well, because
despite the
it's not
adventures
only
in
just
between.
I need to go fix this for Anubis. It was kind of a wow, the universe could end kind of threat that Anubis was holding
now
things
he's
back,
kind of pushing it off.
and for the Doctor to go, I'll get to that later.
It strikes out of character.
Well,
even,
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey though. I mean, he lives his life that way, of jumping from problem to problem in and out of order. So I can kind of see him thinking that there's no immediacy to this. It's something that's happening at a certain point in time. So let's pop off and have a few adventures, and then we'll deal with this later. I think that's in the Doctor's character. So Anubis showing up there at the end to remind him kind of works for me in that sense. On the other hand, I still agree with Sean. I think it was too soon.
Yeah,
I think I would have liked to have seen the Doctor pop off for 2 or 3. And I say that in the way of he's just ignoring it. I don't think he is. I think the Doctor sometimes gets distracted. And I would have liked to seen him get distracted for a couple of stories, and then Anubis pop back up and say, hey, you're supposed to be doing something for me.
starters,
Yes,
we would have forgotten maybe by that point. Oh, yeah, you're supposed to be doing something for Anubis. So the fact that he pops up right away as if to remind us, don't forget, Anubis is out there, it's kind of like, oh, well, okay.
Well, and as great as the opening pages were of Gabby in trouble, I'd never believed that Gabby was dying there. And they could have easily done a setup of some sort, because the start of the adventure isn't anything in the middle. I mean, they land on this planet to go show Gabby. So there could have been lines of dialogue there of them landing, talking about, yes, there's Anubis we need to deal with, but let's go do this first. Something to kind of reference.
It might work better, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to actually seeing him.
Yeah, and I love the idea of jumping in the middle of the action, but I think it works better later in the other two-parter.
Well,
this one, because it winds up being most of it being a flashback of how we got to that point. It's kind
Jumping
of,
in at the end of the action is a little
that's
weird, as opposed to in the middle of it.
It's one thing if you're jumping into the middle of the action or the end of the action if you're not going to revisit the action.
Yeah. I also have a problem with I kind of like the concept of dropping us into the action at the beginning, and we don't know what's going on, and then backing up to the beginning, and then going on, and then revisiting that. But they did the same thing here that they do in other things that it's one of those tropes that bugs the heck out of me, is they set you into a situation and make you think that it's dire straits, that things are just cataclysmic and there's going to be no way to stop it. And then when they revisit that moment, it's much softened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's not that tension that we had at the beginning because there's all that mystery of the unknown. Now we know what's going on. But then it needs to play out exactly the same way that it plays out at the beginning. And it almost is, she's more calm about it when and it somehow that doesn't work to me. I know it's a device to make you realize, this is more of the picture now. I know what's going on, but it still needed to be at least as tense as it was at that beginning, even though you're letting me know that, hey, things are a little more in control now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the best uses of that trope aren't ones where they're in dire straits. It's more of dumping the viewer into a different sort of situation than you're normally in when you go into this universe, and then backing up to figure out how you got there.
Yes.
Those are the better uses of the trope, as opposed to this.
Agreed.
I changed my view to a 2-page spread, and it doesn't put those 2 pages together.
That just
frats of frats.
Yeah, they're on the wrong pages.
So wrong.
I think you can reorganize too from the beginning.
I don't know. This is becoming more work than I really cared for this pretty picture. The other thing that I think is frustrating with this, maybe it was just me, because obviously I can keep up with it. I know that when we go from Gabby crying, it was so, and then we get to this beautiful vista. It would have been nice if they had put 3 days ago or 24 hours earlier. Or I just those little place marker moments are kind of like, I like that just for my own self-benefit. Now, obviously, I can see this and figure out this is earlier in the day or whatever. But it would have been nice to have had that just to break that up. Going back to what you said a moment ago, Keith, about you didn't buy that Gabby was actually in danger. Correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't they done this particular story style setup with Gabby multiple times, where it seems like we jump in the middle of the action and something is horrific that was about to go down, and then we kind of flash back to what was actually happening?
I think,
seems familiar.
It seemed really of a familiar trope. So that's kind of another one that, and I'll discuss a little bit more on that later.
The 10th Doctor doesn't really, his era doesn't have that either. If I'm remembering correctly, it's not like we have a lot of that trope in his television run.
I think Human Nature is really the only time right off the top of my head that I can think of that kind of does that.
Only the ones.
But
so. Do you think we'll revisit who caused the virus, since we don't really know? Because it was either accidentally deleted or destroyed, or possibly someone covering their tracks?
I think yes, and I hope I'm wrong. But I will touch more on that later as we get into the end of these particular stories.
It seems likely, since we take some of these Titan arcs tend to call back a lot.
Yeah.
So it seems likely.
Let's move on to...
do we have to?
Yeah.
The Doctorless episode.
The Doctorless episode. Issue.
Obviously, Glenn didn't like it.
Glenn didn't like it. It's a sketchbook story. Glenn automatically
started out as a sketchbook story.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily like that part. Although I thought it was a little easier to read. I don't know if I was because I was reading it on a computer and zoomed in more.
It was easier to read this time.
The font is much easier to read now than it was earlier. They have fixed that.
I appreciate the device. It just there's something about it that strikes me wrong. I just doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
What I liked about this story was that they did something different. They did a Doctor Light episode, or no Doctor episode at all in the comics. I think that's a pretty bold move.
I think you could call it a Doctor Light, because we do find out what Gabby and the Doctor are doing through Gabby's sketchbook.
And we see images of him.
Yeah, so I think you could call it Doctor Light. But interestingly, it takes this right turn and becomes something completely different than what it sets out to be, which I kind of like that.
I enjoyed that aspect of it too. Because if it was just going to be Cindy sitting there reading her journal, I just read all these comics. I don't need to read in a journal form.
Exactly.
I like that it was kind of condensed and shortened versions of these stories to kind of remind you of, here's what we did last year, essentially.
I also like the fact that there's, in a way, you could
if you're going to remind me of Anubis, do it this way.
Oh,
Yeah,
there
Do
you
it
go.
in the
This would
journal.
have been a great way to do it.
Sorry, Sean.
No. I also like the fact that, in a way, you could almost take the sketchbook part of this issue and give it to somebody who's never watched Doctor Who and go, read this part. And you get a nice summary of what the show's about.
I suppose so, yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, it really is a kind of a beautiful way of setting it up and looking at the character of the Doctor and, giving you it in a nutshell, which I thought was cool.
Maybe that's what I don't like about it, though, is I know enough about this Doctor that I don't feel like
you don't need
I'm learning
recap.
anything from it. And like I say, I can appreciate the device, but it just, for some reason, it doesn't work for me. And I can't put my finger on it, but maybe that's part of it.
So do we feel like maybe the sketchbook might have psychic paper? That
Oh,
that's
I
what she's
hadn't
drawing
thought
on?
I
of
didn't
that.
think of that either.
Because it does at the end.
Because it changes?
Yeah, change events some that haven't even happened yet. So, or had just so recently happened. And she had this book
Yeah.
before the events that had just transpired.
Now, we also get the line from Dr. Doom, whatever his name was,
Mr. Ebonite?
Mr. Ebonite, that he says something about the park has been a localized...
Temporal disturbance or something.
He uses a Ghostbusters line almost. So it could be that...
Radiant points of metatemporal displacement.
That's it.
Yeah, that one.
Energy.
So it could be that maybe there's something in the park that was affecting the comic. Maybe he... Or the journal.
Well,
maybe he's picking up the
got
journal.
That's what I got the impression was that the journal was that whatever Keith just spouted out.
I don't know,
And that's the impression I got too, and that somebody was using the journal, and that's why he locked onto it.
Yeah.
Because he seems really focused on the book, so that's what I'm inclined to believe. But
Well,
then
he flat out says, "I need that book. Get it for me."
But then I
Sends
also
the
kind of
skull
thought
after
that,
it.
well, maybe have they been nabbed from this park before? I mean, is this a recurring location for the Gabby stories? I don't know. I don't know if it's important.
Mr. Ebonite, what a lazy name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of
It's
excited
very
to
Terry Nation.
see Cleo show back up.
Yeah. And what's his face?
Eric,
Yeah,
was that his name?
I think so.
Which, okay. Again, I appreciate the device, and I know why they did it this way. But it seems like I went through... Here's my inherent problem with this story, is I went through 10 pages of this conflict only to find out that everything was fine anyway. And, 'cause, Jack shows up. And he's even given Eric the device to wear so that he doesn't really die. It just gives the impression that he dies. And it was very much in the vein of how Jack would do something. On the other hand, it almost felt like couldn't Jack have just maybe shown up sooner and
Taking care of the issue.
It's
That's a
almost
good
like
point.
we didn't need all of this exhibition. Well, we did because we have to fill out 30 pages of a comic book.
And we've already given you 15 journal entries.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and I think that's where it comes down to is it feels like an episode that was, or an issue that was a little bit needless, almost like filler to me.
Oh, I think it's laying groundwork.
I think
more
it
than
is laying
anything else.
groundwork, but
Yeah.
it just it felt. It
And instead
felt
of
like we
spreading
had
it
an
out-
extra issue in here we had to do something with. So somebody devised this plan to introduce Jack, and so we get part of it is the journal, and then we get part of it this confrontation with Mr. Ebonite, and then Jack shows up. It was just, I don't know. This was my least favorite. I can't say too much bad about it because I even liked the artwork in this one too. I thought the artwork was even Mr. Ebonite was realized very cool, especially with his little skull that was flying around, his minion skull. But
I agree. This is the weakest of the 5 that we're reviewing. I still think it's what do I want to call it? It's interesting that it's placed where it is, that we had a 2-parter and then this one and then a 2-parter, because it doesn't necessarily feel like a meanwhile back on Earth, but that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So, obviously all of these pieces are going to come together in the next grouping, but we're kind of stuck at this. So
It kind of feels like they had the story they need to do to set up what's going to come down the line, and they didn't want to spend several pages in several issues telling the story, so they decided to just jam it all together.
And that makes sense. And if that's the case, then I probably will be a little more forgiving down the line.
Yeah.
When we get more of this arc.
Or have a flashback once they do all meet up, and the Doctor's like, Jack, how are you involved in this?
Yeah.
And then we get this story. But because
That
we've
would've been
already
a little
had
bit
so
better.
many flashbacks, maybe
Yeah.
they decided against that.
Yeah,
method of-
that could be too.
So they'd rather do another storybook, sketchbook story than a flashback story.
It's the next story arc that I didn't hate. But I'm not sure if I liked it. And the reason I'm not sure if I liked it is because it felt like Dreamtime all over again to me. I had no idea what was going on.
It was
I was
clearer to me than Dreamtime.
I was quite confused until the adversaries sort of show up.
Yeah.
And it sort of clarifies what's been going on, but it felt like they left a lot of things open. Like, what were the Renegades actually doing there? They were fighting back against these discs. but
Trying to stop things, but not really.
How did they come to this point? Why are they
You mean
there
like
in the
the bounty
first
hunters?
place? They
Yeah.
weren't bounty hunters. They
Yeah,
were,
you're right. Yeah.
What do you call them?
The team
I said
of
Renegades. They're
Salvage.
mercenaries, I think
Yeah,
is more.
mercenaries.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
that's
the
the
right
right word.
term for them. How did they get there? Why are they together? Are we going to get more of their story later on down the line, or is this going to be a one-off crew? I like eclectic character study teams where you've got very different people, but I need a reason eventually of why they're together, what they're doing, and what their motivations are. And these two stories didn't do that.
The
I also
team,
didn't like the fact, because I thought maybe I had missed an episode or an issue, I didn't like being dropped into a story where something has already happened to the Doctor and Gabby, and we didn't get much, even in the beginnings, we didn't get much explanation
was
other
hurt.
than he
It's like,
fell.
what?
He fell from a height.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh gosh, radio tower all over again. But,
spoilers. I was glad that they at least gave us in very quick 10th Doctor babble speak the answer to that.
Yeah.
Later.
At least we did get it.
That when he's going on about, you didn't know it was me originally and you tossed me out.
Oh, yeah,
You
but
know,
I
so
mean,
they at least resolved it.
yeah.
And it was kind of like, well, okay, but I agree with you. I didn't like that. The other thing with the team, real quick, we get a very, very nice, I felt like 2 pages breakdown detailing, this is so and so, their expertise is this.
Yes.
This is so and so, and this
Yes.
is and everybody's got these weird exotic names, and this is Tony.
And Tony was the most weird, exotic.
Yeah,
Of
I still don't
the
know what's
bunch.
underneath the suit. But then we never utilized
Yes.
any
Any of
of. It was like
Any of their talents?
it was like
or
an
their
Ocean's 11 movie where we went and
specialties, or-
recruited these guys and then didn't steal anything. So I hope that they maybe come back, but
They
it doesn't
should.
feel like it
They
based
should,
on
because,
this.
but it didn't. That's why I feel like I felt a little lost, because I almost needed to know more about this crew if this is going to be the only story that they're going to be in.
Yeah.
But maybe this writer decided that this is the crew that he wants to kind of develop down the road, and they're going to pop up from time to time. Maybe, I don't know.
I'd be okay with that too. I mean, I was intrigued by them, but I just felt like this was a weak entrance for them because
They didn't do much.
they didn't do much.
yeah.
In fact, they don't even solve the issue. It kind of goes back to
Well, the doctor
the
solves
Doctor. I mean, well, Gabby, I guess, shows up and shoots everything.
Right,
but
right, right.
I did like what's his name, Mammoth.
Yeah, the Neanderthal.
The
Yeah.
Neanderthal. I liked him. I thought he was cool. I liked the fact that there were words that weren't being translated. I thought that was kind of a cool
That
thing. And I
was
didn't know
another
if it was
thing.
necessarily because
And
the
that-
Doctor was out, and that
That was another thing that one of the reasons I can't say that one of the things I think I do like about the story is because that kind of comes across later as well. Is that was another thing that was very confusing, and I was like, why are these words squiggled out?
And
What's
I
going
think
on?
they intended
And they
to disorient
I think
you.
they did, but I think there was too much going on that was disorienting me that I think I didn't like about it. Eventually you get to a point where you kind of discover why that was being done. But again, I get dropped into this story right in the middle of what's going on with the Doctor and Gabby. We get Mammoth's story kind of from the
Yeah.
beginning. Well, we don't even get most of his because he's kind of explaining what happened to his tribe as we go along too. So there was too much disorientation for me at first. I think it pays off, don't get me wrong, but it was one of those things like I don't like to be confused for most of a story in order to get the resolution for everything that you've confused me about later. That's a little much, but
So do we really have a sense? Does anybody know? My initial thought for the words being squiggled out was maybe the TARDIS translation circuit wasn't necessarily working because the Doctor was unconscious. Because they've kind of gone both ways with that sometimes it's the TARDIS translating for you, and sometimes it's the Doctor's presence via the TARDIS translating for you.
Well,
but we've had him knocked out before, I think not had that.
I think you're overthinking the...
Or is it just because he's a Neanderthal?
I think you're overthinking the point of it, because I think we can put an excuse on it. I think we can retroactively put an excuse on it by saying it was the Doctor, or the TARDIS is too far away, or Neanderthals are an extinct race, so maybe the TARDIS is still learning the matrix of their language.
Later we have words that didn't translate properly.
I don't think any of Mamuth's words were scrambled, right?
I think...
Or were they? Because
a couple of his that Gabby didn't get.
I got the impression it was more of a Mamuth couldn't understand these words, so us as the reader were trying to empathize with his character as to why he couldn't quite understand certain things that Gabby was saying, but they kind of started to fill in later as he began to understand them based in context. So I got the impression that
maybe that's where
the author was trying to write it in such a way that you were in the character of Mamuth and you could understand that he just was there were words that were so foreign to him that he couldn't put them in context until later.
Okay, I'll buy that.
And I like that they changed words that they could to something that he would have understood.
Medicine Man.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things. Even the Doctor pulling out the sonic screwdriver and immediately explaining to him that you won't understand this, but and still trying to explain it in a way that he would understand it.
I liked the idea that the villains of the piece were old school in a way, known to the Time Lords from days of the Time Scoop. It's like, okay, that's cool, and a nice tie-in. I don't feel like they did anything.
No, and but I also kind of like the fact that there wasn't some invading party off, by themselves either. That they were kind of the scouting party for. It was kind of related to us that they were kind of working on their own, because that was the one thing I was concerned about was, you've dispatched these two, but what happens when their buddies show up?
Yeah.
But they kind of get away with saying, well, we were sort of working on our own anyway, and so then I was kind of, okay, well then that kind of relegates that to, okay, I don't have to worry about a large fleet coming in later and swooping in after the Doctor leaves.
And other than entertainment, they didn't really give us a reason behind what they were doing. Well, because it was beaming back as television, pretty much, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well,
until we get to the end, and then it's
right.
You think you're stupid enough to think you won. This game is just the beginning. Time to summon my true employers, and everybody gets sucked into some sort of temporal vortex.
Right. Because
which is where we leave off on the Hangover.
Right.
So
exactly
on the Hangover, on the cliffhanger. Okay. Words are hard. So there's that, and I think it's interesting that this was a 2-part story, but obviously it ends in such a way that, well, at least for the Doctor and Gabby, they're going to continue on. I don't know if we can quite determine whether or not Mamuth makes it, or if
I think the dialogue as they're getting sucked away kind of implies that he's getting left behind.
Yeah. But
we're also moving on to a new story arc. You can tell, even though they're interconnected, you can tell we're moving on to another story arc. So, which would make sense to leave Mamuth behind so that we can continue to deal with something different.
Yeah,
I like the design of the aliens too. These weird kind of half jellyfish, half leviathan things. That was kind of a cool, not an anthropomorphized something. Just a that's
it can be done.
Scary looking.
When you have an imagination.
Well, you have a comic book budget.
I'm sorry. I think you can come up with a unique alien with the same budget as you can a talking rhino.
Maybe. Did anybody not think it was Jack from that very first panel when he shows up and you see just part of a trench coat?
No, as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, absolutely. Hey, they've just in it." And I think maybe we knew Jack was coming, didn't we? At one time. I mean, these issues are now half a year old, so.
I don't know if we knew or not.
If we did, I'd forgotten.
Because we knew River was coming, but we'd forgotten until
Yeah.
she showed up. But yeah,
If we did,
Jack
we had
showed up.
forgotten. And so
Well, at this point, Jack has been in the Ninth Doctor comic, so it wasn't his first introduction
Well, that's true.
in
That's true.
Titan Comics. So that might have gotten not as much publicity.
just there's a trench coat. And I was like, oh, it's Jack. And then, here's a figure standing here in the shadows. Come on.
Just step out of the
And then
shadows.
here he stepped a little bit closer, and you can tell that it's a gray trench coat. It's like, oh, will you please hurry up and get to the room? And then he was there in all of his comic glory, and it's like, oh, I'm so happy now.
Was it me or was the alien mercenary in the suit look a lot like Ark?
Yeah,
Does
I
look a
thought
little
so.
Design
Ark,
choice.
yeah.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony. That's his name.
So here's
maybe that's why he had such a plain name.
Probably.
Here's where what I kind of worry about with this. We talked a little bit about the trope of putting Gabby in danger right at the beginning and then kind of backtracking. The other thing that I've noticed with the Gabby stories is we seem to be visiting a lot of artists and music planets and music villains and
Well, he almost, in the conversation about the cave paintings, almost explains that we're going to these places so you can meet these artists because you are an artist.
and that's fine. It makes sense from the standpoint that he's trying to encourage
At least we got
her.
an explanation of why it's not coincidence.
Right?
He's
Yeah.
doing it
No.
on
It's
purpose.
done on purpose. But and this is why he's trying to encourage her and broaden her mind and all this kind of stuff. I'm fine with that. However, when you asked about the person who put the signal in the music, I'm now worried that the long game is going to revolve around an art solution. And something that only Gabby could come up with, and she has to believe in herself or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
Well,
being
there's
way too
nothing wrong
pessimistic
with-
with
nothing
it.
wrong with
There's
that.
nothing wrong with that, but I've enjoyed her character so much, and I've enjoyed the majority of the 10th Doctor stories so much that I don't want it to kind of de-evolve down to that. And I look back on the 8th Doctor one that we just did, and with the painter, and that series, that story really felt like we've already done that with Gabby. We've already done that kind of thing. And so maybe that's what's painting my perceptions, if you will, that I'm now worried that we're going to get that story, but instead of told over a 5-issue arc, we're going to get it told over a 3-year, however long Gabby
Well,
winds
maybe.
up hanging out. And
Maybe.
I'm kind of like, oh, I hope not. But
Well, and it almost comes across as this character's one note. It's all about art, and she can't have any other depth or any other interest in that.
yeah,
Surely there's more to Gabby than just the art.
yeah.
I mean, we get the character moments with her connecting with people, but the way the Doctor's approaching it almost seems like, well, you're an artist, so all you care about is art. A little bit.
And we've had,
Well-
in the moments that she's been, throughout these comics, I mean, we had a love story in the Weeping
She's
Angels.
gotten good other stuff to do. It's just
She took charge in
maybe
the
I'm just
Presley
not
Institute.
used
and
to
did,
Doctor Who remembering their companion's backstory.
Well, this is all. I mean, they're doing it the same way they did with Donna. Is Donna, all she knew how to do was be a temp, and her character grew and expanded, and we learned more about her, and she became more self-assured, and she became more of a character as Gabby's growing as with her. But we revert back to the fact that Donna's true purpose was being a temp. She was a temporary fix for the ultimate storyline there, and she was reverted back to the basis when she had to have her memory erased. I mean, that's the story. That's Donna's story, and she was meant to be a temp, and she's a temp. She's a temporary Time Lord.
So
for crying out loud.
that's an ironic factor. I hadn't boiled it down to that.
Yeah, I mean that was her function and purpose.
Like
and
Donna's
it
story
served-
wasn't tragic enough.
No,
Thanks.
well, but it served the story, and it served the world. It served the universe.
Yeah.
It served. There was a reason for her being that, why she was that way, and so if they do that with Gabby, I mean, you can almost say, well, we've kind of done that, but we're doing that. I mean, we do that in a different way, and so it to me it still works because it's still in that same line.
I don't know. I feel at this point, I would like to see. I'm sure they have other adventures. I would like to see some of those. I feel like every time they get somewhere and somebody winds up being a pianist or a singer or something, I kind of get that. Okay, we get it. I mean,
I think maybe because they're spaced so close together.
That
we
could be
only
too
have
for us.
one step away this time. I think if they throughout the rest of this season, if they pepper in other stories that aren't so, art specific, I think it'll be okay.
Like last year, we had the Weeping Angel one. Wasn't very art
Yeah,
specific.
and that was one that we enjoyed far more. The Anubis story didn't really focus much on art.
Aren't the angels art themselves?
No, because but in the image of an angel becomes an angel, so you wouldn't want to draw or take a picture.
That's true.
What are you doing? She go back to
she did draw an angel.
They were in the sketchbook, weren't they?
Well, that'd be an awesome way to bring the angels back. Hint, hint, Titan. I know they listened because they retweeted.
There's one right here. We are doomed.
Oh yeah,
they retweeted.
There.
They retweeted one of Sean. Was it Sean or was it Keith who said that we were reviewing that this week?
I think it was the Travel Vortex account.
They retweeted us. So,
did they?
Yeah, Titan did.
Nice.
They must be listening.
Yeah.
Well,
or at least watching their Twitter stream for their handle to come up.
Yeah.
This angel looks a little bit like Peter Capaldi.
Don't they all?
He was a stonemason.
They all have those eyebrows and eyes, too, those angry eyes. All right, well, what do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
We're coming up on the schedule. We're going to get more of the same, in a manner of speaking.
We're doing Dreamtime again?
Dreamtime again? No. We're going to do some more Big Finish, though. Mainline number 100, which is called 100.
It's actually broken into 4 different stories.
So you're going to get the next week.
It'll be like listening to several Fourth Doctor adventures
all at one time.
Yep.
And then we're going to continue on with the Titan comics in the 10th Doctor line and get issues 6 through 10. So we'll just pick up this discussion right where we left off and be able to keep going with it. Hopefully continue to have some nice things to say about it. So I'm enjoying it.
Sean will be eating his words next week when
probably.
None of the next arc has anything to do with art.
And they killed Gabby and everything. I'll be so sad. But some of us will be tuning in for Friday Night Who in between shows for the Keys of Marinus, parts 4 through 6. Hopefully I'll be there this time. We got home and we were just exhausted. A long day, and I went, let's take a nap. After we got done watching Sherlock, we went to bed at 8:30. And I was going to get up and watch Friday Night Who at 12:47 or something. I kind of woke with a start and went,
You missed it.
Completely missed it.
I had every intention of joining this week, and the same thing happened to me.
Did it really?
I had worked all day long around the house, and at about 8:30, I laid down on the couch, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up, everybody else was in bed, and it was about 2:30 in the morning. I went,
much later.
I missed you. Well, yeah.
High five, old guys.
I missed Friday Night Who. Well, I'll just go to bed now.
So at some point in time this week, I'll need to watch parts 1 through 3 so that I can gear up. Because I was really looking forward to Keys of Marinus. Because I remember reviewing Keys of Marinus and being kind of down on it. And you guys all loved it. And I thought maybe I'd...
The first 3 are as enjoyable as I remember them.
So I need to watch it again. So maybe I can change my tune a little bit. And then, nope, I'm going to sleep through it. So you can join us for parts 4 through 6 for Friday Night Who this week. Next week, we're going to do The Long Game with Christopher Eccleston for Friday Night Who. And then a special event, we're going to invite Andy Frankham-Allen back to the show for a non-Doctor Who discussion. So you have that to look forward to. And then on the week of the 14th is the 5 Doctors. So we'll get some 5th Doctor action in there. And that leads us into Time Eddy, which we will be all at our local Wichita convention that we're very, 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 very excited about, featuring the 5th Doctor. Peter Davison going to be there, and so we'll have all kinds of good stuff for you from that. And once again, if you're able to come to Time Eddy, come to Time Eddy. I mean,
and make sure you say hi to us.
Make sure you say hi. And do we know that that code's still up?
I believe that code is still active. I think you could still put Vortex in the code form there if you're getting ready to buy your tickets, and you'll get 20% off. Or is it 30% off?
I think it's 20.
20% off. Okay. Yeah, it was 30 for the other one. Yeah, 20% off your ticket. So your cost of a 3-day pass. So.
For any of our local listeners, we will be at least part of the day on Saturday at Slash and Bash, which is here in Topeka. It's our local horror fest that's going to be going on, and they invited us, and we said, well, sure. So you can come see us there. And that is on, what day did we decide we were going to be there? The 8th?
8th, yep.
The 8th of October.
Saturday the 8th.
Saturday the 8th. So you can come see us there. Beyond that, more things to come on the schedule that have not yet been scheduled.
And be sure, obviously, to support us on Patreon if you can. If you're already a supporter, we thank you. And if not, and a little bit helps. So you can find links to that on the right-hand side of our website. You can also find some other click-through links to products that you can buy, and the portion of those go back into our show. And we want to thank Ben, again, who uses those portals to purchase things. And I want to thank him because a portion of those proceeds go into the show as well. Keith, you want to tell people where to find us?
Yeah, you can send us feedback at Traveling the Vortex, or fill out the form on travelingthevortex.com. We're also on Facebook, Traveling the Vortex, and Twitter at Travel Vortex.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.